builders of new homes, cracking down on corporate landlords, and a federal ban on price gouging in the food industry. Polls show Harris improving on President Biden's deficit on the issue of the economy, but she's still behind Donald Trump. A CNBC poll shows that 40% of registered voters think that Trump would be better for them financially speaking versus 21% for Harris. Notably, though, 35% believe the winner will not make a difference at all. We're also learning that Kamala Harris is already in debate preps for her September 10th face-off with Donald Trump. This with President Biden playing the happy warrior yesterday at his first joint remarks with Harris since dropping out of the race.
The guy we're running against, what's his name? Donald Dump or Donald whatever. Let me tell you what our Project 2025 is. Beat the hell out of him.
Joining us now, NBC News Washington correspondent Yamiche Alcindor, who's in Raleigh, North Carolina, ahead of the vice president's remarks. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung, and Boston Globe senior opinion writer Kimberly Atkins-Storr, and Reuters White House correspondent Jeff Mason. So, Yamiche, what is Harris proposing as part of this economic pitch today? Is she trying to set herself apart from Joe Biden in any way?
Well, she's definitely trying to make sure that people understand what her policy positions are, because there's been a lot of question of whether or not she had sort of details in her stances. And today we're going to hear a lot about those details. So I want to walk you through some of the things that we expect to hear from her. First, she's going to throw her support behind an expanded child tax credit. And if we put it up for folks, it's $6,000 for middle income and low income families with newborns during the first year of that child's life. After that, it would be $3,600 for middle-class families after the first year. After that, she's going to be talking also about a federal ban on corporate price gouging on groceries. This plan overlaps with efforts by the Biden administration, of course, the Biden-Harris administration that's been pursued for years. She's going to be talking about housing tax initiatives for builders of starter homes. She'll also be proposing providing up to $25,000 in down payment support for first-time home buyers. And then she's going to really be focusing on cracking down on corporate landlords. And by doing that, this is a story we broke yesterday. She's going to, talk about the fact that there should stop having data firms from driving up rent prices, and she's also going to be trying to remove key tax benefits for Wall Street firms that invest and buy homes, really trying to make the case that she wants to both help people that are starting with sort of in-home ownership, but also wants to keep the rent prices down for people who are renting. And this is really all about, in some ways, talking to the middle class, talking about the fact that this is a people powered campaign, that she's going to be able to impact people's lived experiences, Ryan.
And Brian, we always have to caveat these proposals by presidential candidates in that Harris is going to need Congress to sign off on these proposals. We don't know what Congress is going to look like after this election. But as the numbers and data guy, how realistic or detailed is what she's proposing?
Well, I mean, some of these things are things that the Biden administration has already been trying to do. And as you do point out, yes, Congress is going to have to approve things like, for example, that $25,000 assistance on down payments, which might catch the attention of a lot of voters. That's not something that can necessarily happen on day one because you would need congressional support. But look, there's a lot of bureaucratic things that she could do on the price gouging. That's kind of what got my attention from her announcement, namely that she wants to give the Federal Trade Commission and also attorneys general more power in trying to police instances where they might see some large companies trying to unduly raise prices to increase their profit margins without passing on any sort of cost to the consumer. These are things that she could direct her FTC chair, either if she keeps current chair Lina Khan or replaces her with somebody else, to basically say, hey, why don't you just tighten the screws on some of these companies? And Lina Khan, under the current Biden administration, has tried to go to court against a number of companies to try to stop, in some cases, large mergers and acquisitions with some mixed results, specifically on the big tech side. So, again, these are things that, are viable, but the plan was relatively vague when it comes to investigate and impose strict new penalties on companies. We don't know what those penalties would look like or what even might constitute price gouging, which economists have been telling me over the past few years is a really tough thing to identify and even prove specifically in court. Those are going to be very difficult issues, Ryan.
So, Jeff, the problem that Democrats have had throughout this campaign is that the numbers seem pretty good, right? There's economic progress. Inflation is dropping. It fell below 3% this week. But the vibes, when you talk to voters, just don't seem to resonate there for Harris on the economy. Is her effort here about contrasting herself with Trump rather than Biden? How do they get this economic message to start to sink in with voters?
And it's a vibes election, Ryan. I mean, that's something that the Harris campaign has actually embraced. And on this particular vibe, it's not one that is favorable to her. So I think the answer to your question is they do want to contrast with former President Trump, specifically on tax policy and on tariffs. The former president has proposed an increase in across-the-board tariffs, which economists say would actually lead to an increase in costs for Americans. But the Harris campaign is certainly aware of the fact that even though, as you say, the numbers are coming down and the economic numbers look very positive, the fact that the grocery prices and gas prices and housing prices are still high is a vulnerability. So that's what she's trying to speak to. She's trying to come out aggressively on that with these proposals. Of course, there's the question as to whether or not that they could get passed if she became president, but certainly it's her putting a marker on what she would like to do. And that marker is a fairly populist one, which she hopes will resonate with people in swing states like Nevada and Michigan and Wisconsin.
And Kimberly, the vice president's had a pretty good run here, a bit of a honeymoon period with voters right now. She's at least got the race back to even, like it was before Joe Biden dropped out of the race, before that debate. Now they head into their convention next week, the Democratic convention. What are you looking for, Kimberly? Joe Biden's going to honor the president at the convention on Monday, where he'll speak. There's still some hurt feelings there about the way he might have been pushed out of this race. Also, we have the backdrop of these pro-Palestinian protests, which we expect to be pretty vocal in Chicago next week. We saw President Biden interrupted 3 times at his event with Kamala Harris yesterday. Just give me an overall a sense of what you're expecting next week.
Yes, so it will be a combination of passing that baton to the new Democratic nominee in a way that Democrats will probably try as much as they can to show unity, to sort of quell the bad feelings. I'm reminded of 2016 at the DNC, when even after Hillary Clinton accepted the nomination, a lot of the Bernie Sanders delegates were clearly upset, and we knew that that division would carry over, and it did. We saw the results of that. The Democrats will need to try to quell that and say, listen, you may not like the way that we got here, but we have a job to do now, and we all need to pull together. As for the protests, look, that is one of the many issues that Kamala Harris, once she becomes the nominee, will have to address among that things that voters care about and that Democrats care about. So far, she has offered to listen, to sit down, but at the same time have a constructive conversation about it. We've seen her being able to handle protests and things like that. I don't think that really bothers her, but she knows she has to make the message, make the pitch to voters the same way as she's trying to do, as we were discussing about the economy, on all of the issues, including Gaza. So the Democrats have a lot to do next week.
Hey, guys, we do have some breaking news. President Biden just speaking in the Oval Office a few minutes ago about the progress of negotiations around ceasefire talks in the Middle East. Let's listen to what the president had to say, and then we'll talk about it after.
One of the reasons why I was late for you all was I was dealing with the ceasefire effort in the Middle East. And we are closer than we've ever been. I don't want to jinx anything, but as my grandfather said, with the grace of God, good little neighbors, a lot of luck, we may have something. But we're not there yet. But it's much, much closer than it was 3 days ago. So keep your fingers crossed. Thank you.
So, Jeff Mason, put this into context for us. We've been here a couple of times where it seems as though negotiators are on the precipice of a deal and then it seemingly falls apart. This seems to be a level of optimism from President Biden. How realistic might it be?
Well, a couple things. You're absolutely right to say we've been there a few times, more than a few, and it hasn't led to something. But the fact that the president is weighing in, I think, is notable. One, it shows his optimism. 2, it shows a little shift with Joe Biden speaking to the press a little bit more, seeming, I think, a little bit less burdened after having stepped aside. And 3, look, Brian, on a political level, this could be a really, really big thing for him and his legacy, but also for his successor, Vice President Harris. If they were able to come up with a peace deal, it would neutralize a lot of the problems that are facing her and her campaign that we've just been talking about. And it would also just cap off his presidency in a way that he would like to have a strong finish. But reality check, back to what you said before, they've come close before and it hasn't happened. So of course, the most important thing will be for them to actually get a deal done.
We may have something. Emphasis on the may. Jeff Mason, I think, is what we need to kind of put this into context for. Yamiche, Brian, Kimberly, Jeff, thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Off message. Donald Trump veers off topic and lands in hot water with some veterans. That's next when Andrea Mitchell reports is back in 90 seconds, only on MSNBC.
Growing old is part of the journey, even when you have heart failure. But when he had shortness of breath, carpal tunnel syndrome, and lower back pain, we wondered, could these be warning signs of something bigger? Thank goodness we called his cardiologist, because these were signs of ATTR-CM, a rare and serious disease that gets worse over time. If you see any of the warning signs, don't wait. Ask your cardiologist about ATTR-CM today.
I own a lot of businesses, so my tech and my network need to keep up. Thank you, Verizon Business.
Now our businesses get fast and reliable internet from the same network that powers our phones.
So whatever's next, we're cooking with fire.
Switch to the partner businesses rely on.
If you have to cut, pack, drive, scout, weld, stack, feed, pull, load, tow, drop, and haul all in a single day, then you just have to get in the seat of the new John Deere Gator XUV. Learn more at your John Deere dealer.
My little miracle is Beckett.
I've died every day waiting for you.
We wouldn't be where we are without St. Jude, and in turn, we wouldn't be where we are without those people that have donated.
When the internet said Red Lobster's going away, your boy Flavor Flav said, not today. Crab Fest is here, boy, and they got two flavors, roasted garlic and new Cajun butter. When you gotta have seafood, you gotta have Red Lobster.
Speaking last night at a campaign event intended to focus on anti-Semitism, Donald Trump, as he often does, went off script, this time telling Republican donor Miriam Adelson, the widow of Republican mega donor Sheldon Adelson, that the Medal of Honor he bestowed upon her is, quote, better than the top award to members of the military.
I have to say, Miriam, I watched Sheldon sitting so proud in the White House when we gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead.
And that was, of course, the Medal of Freedom, not the Medal of Honor. Joining me now, NBC News correspondent Garrett Haake and New York Times national reporter Jeremy Peters. So, Garrett, let's talk about this. The former president said what he said last night obviously wasn't in the teleprompter.
Clearly.
This is him going off script, as he often does. Do you think there's any effort by his staff right now to try and change his tone? Is that a fruitless endeavor at this point?
Yeah, look, I think the staff knows that they can only kind of build him the tracks that they want him to follow and hope that he does. I mean, you saw that in the event that preceded this anti-Semitism event last night, where he was speaking about inflation and about rising prices surrounded by cereal and bread and lunch meat. I mean, it's almost like the campaign saying, using that as a tactile reminder to him that this is what the topic is supposed to be. But whether they think they can walk this back or clean it up in some particular way, I don't think there's any evidence that they feel a particular need to do that yet, or that they could in a meaningful way. He said what he said, as he often does, and onward the Trump train goes.
It reminds me of when he made those comments about John McCain early on in 2016.
There's a laundry list of
that was the end of his campaign,
right.
And look where we are now. So, Jeremy, as Garrett mentioned, we saw this yesterday afternoon, too. He's at a news conference in Bedminster. He's got all of the props around him. But he also went off script again and really went after Kamala Harris, suggested that he's entitled to personal attacks on the vice president. And it really took all the attention away from this event that's focused on the economy and an area where polls show that he actually has a pretty strong message. Do you think they're just going to continue with these news conferences? Is there any evidence that this tactic is working for them?
I think it's working in the sense that it reminds people that Kamala Harris is not answering a lot of questions from the media. She has here and there, after events, done little gaggles with reporters. But one of the arguments that the Trump campaign and Trump himself keeps hitting on is the notion that she's hiding. She doesn't want to come out and face the cameras. She's basically doing what Biden did and staying in the basement. But I think that's going to change. At this point, just 3-4 weeks into her presidential campaign, she has the luxury of this honeymoon period. That's going to change once we have the convention next week. And I would assume that once we get past Labor Day, you're going to see her sitting down for interviews. She's going to be out there. There will be policies. That's another criticism that the Trump. Today, you're going to see policies, in fact, where Kamala Harris is going to outline her economic plan. So the Trump campaign, in kind of flailing around, casting about, looking for an attack on her that will stick, still really hasn't found anything. And that's why you see these kind of random stream of consciousness riffs from the president, former president, at his availabilities.
Now, this may make some folks roll their eyes, Garrett, the way he behaves in these press conferences, but his base absolutely loves it. The question, though, is, has he reached his ceiling in terms of riling up the base? And at some point, does the campaign need to start making an entree to these middle-of-the-road voters?
Well, look, the bottom line is the campaign doesn't really think that they do. They don't think this is that kind of election. There's been nothing in their behavior, in their messaging, in their advertisements that suggests they're really trying to go after, like, the Nikki Haley Republican voters from the primary. Their belief has long been this is a turnout election. You got to find Donald Trump's base and turn them out. You got to find people who would otherwise be inclined to vote for Donald Trump who are not necessarily engaged in politics. That's the way they view this. So while the tone can generate negative media coverage, can become kind of a self-fulfilling and bad news cycle, they don't see it as necessarily taking voters off the board that they were aggressively playing for anyway. And I hear it all the time from Trump voters that, like him, but wish he would just stop talking, but are going to vote for him anyway. So, again, it creates a lot of kind of negative buzz around him, but whether it's the kind of thing that shifts elections, we will find out in November. But the Trump campaign doesn't think so.
Yeah, okay. Garrett Hake, Jeremy Peters, thank you for that. Let's talk more about this now with the former Republican governor and the 2016 presidential candidate, John Kasich. Governor, you and I have talked about this a lot, I feel, in terms of the Republican Party kind of retreating to the base and not making an effort to get to the middle of the road. Is this a huge mistake? Do they have an opportunity here to win this election by trying to appeal to the middle of America, or is that a lost cause at this point?
Ryan, I look, it just makes total sense. I've been in elected office for 30 years, had a lot of elections. I mean, if all you're trying to do is deal with your base, what about those undecided voters, particularly in these battleground states where the race is so close? And I tell you, I was in the gym today. I get a lot of my ideas in the gym. And one of the guys there, he's not a political follower. He doesn't have any political leanings. He said to me today, because I told him I was coming on to talk about Trump's behavior, and he said, well, his behavior is terrible. But, he said the other side, the Democrats, are talking about all these things they're going to do. Well, where they've been in the last 3 years. I think that's kind of a vulnerability that Democrats have. But Trump is not taking advantage of any of it. I don't think, Ryan, you follow the guy. He gets bored with things that are critical here. So that's why he gets off script. He's so interested in all the cheers and everything from his people. But I just have never thought that you win elections by just going to your base and not being able to reach out to other people. And this is what he did in 2020, and he lost. He lost that election. He's following the same format that he did in 2020. If he keeps it up, because if this gets to be a battle between personality, his personality versus hers, he's going to lose that. If it's a battle on ideology and records, he's got a shot to win that. The polls indicate that. I don't know what he's going to do. Who knows?
So the Trump campaign really believes that the enthusiasm that we're seeing for the Harris-Walz ticket is temporary. I mean, it's lasted almost a month now. But is the momentum that she currently has sustainable? What's it going to take for her to keep that going?
Well, she's definitely going to have to face the press at some point, and she's going to have some clear ideas. Now, everybody's talking about, well, is she trying to run away from Joe Biden? No, she's starting to realize something that I think Biden should have done some time ago, which is people are not happy with the economy. And by the way, real income for middle-class Americans has gone down. So I think she's starting to say that you have to recognize that, to her credit. The problem is, back to my friend in the gym who says where they've been for the last 3 years, because she is tied to him. There's any question about that. But Trump is not speaking to that. And then you have the issue of the border, which is another vulnerability I believe the Democrats have. And what the argument there would be, well, if you're going to stop it all? Well, what have you been doing for the last really 3.5 years? So I think there's an opportunity for Trump. Will he take it? I don't know. But if it's personality, his versus hers, he's a loser on that. And I do think those undecided voters, who you've covered for many years now, Ryan, those undecided voters matter a great deal, particularly in the battleground states.
All right, Governor Kasich, I appreciate your insight and your friend at the gym. We need to make sure you make a gym stop before every appearance on MSNBC, because it certainly contributed to this conversation.
All right, Ryan. Thank you so much. All right.
Coming up, an NBC News exclusive inside DNC convention preps just days before the Chicago kickoff. This is on Andrea Mitchell Reports, which is, of course, only on MSNBC.
On Chewy, save 35% off your first order when you shop all the brands your pet loves. With selection for any pet, with any diet, Chewy has a taste for every tummy. All right at your fingertips. All the brands they love to devour. At prices you love to pay. Delivered fast, right to your door. With Chewy, make mealtime delicious every time. For low prices and fast shipping, for life with pets. There's Chewy with everything.
Looking for a smarter way to mop? Try the Swiffer Power Mop. An all-in-one cleaning tool with a 360-degree swivel head that goes places a regular mop just can't. Mop smarter with the Swiffer Power Mop.
Trains. Trains that sense what isn't on the schedule. Trains that use the power of Dell AI and Intel to see hundreds of miles of tracks, clearing the way so you arrive exactly where you belong.
I'm certain it's level 5.
Are you for imprint certain?
I'm certain it's level 5.
Certainty matters, like the certainty of 4imprint, your home for high-quality promotional gear, including exclusive items and brands they love, printed perfectly and guaranteed to arrive on time. To wow your clients, nail your next event, or inspire your team, check out 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
She grew up in a middle-class home. She was the daughter of a working mom, and she worked at McDonald's while she got her degree. Kamala Harris knows what it's like to be middle class. It's why she's determined to lower healthcare costs and make housing more affordable. Donald Trump has no plan to help the middle class, just more tax cuts for billionaires. Being president is about who you fight for, and she's fighting for people like you.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
If you're shopping for a home, Realtor.com's Real Commute tool lets you find homes close to work, school, even grandma's house.
Don't all apps do that?
Not really. Trust the #1 app real estate professionals trust.
Mission's innovative technology with cooling hats designed using fabrics to keep you cool, covered, and comfortable. To feel colder, activate with water and experience cooling up to 30 degrees below average body temperature. Stay cool with Mission.
Hey, boss, any updates on the link road to the town hall?
We're low on production buildings.
We need more resources and workers. What's the status on the budget?
Don't worry, I have a plan. I'll share my screen with you.
Whoa, you nailed it. You built an entire city.
Love a good challenge? Build your own empire in Forge of Empires, the strategy game that takes you through human history. Get the app or start your adventure directly on FOE.tv.
When the internet said Red Lobster's going away, your boy Flavor Flav said, not today. Crab Fest is here, boy, and they got 2 flavors, roasted garlic and new Cajun butter. When you gotta have seafood, you gotta have Red Lobster.
We planned well for retirement, but I wish we had more cash.
You think those two have any idea that they can sell their life insurance policy for cash, so they're basically sitting on a gold mine?
I don't think they have a clue.
That's crazy.
Well, not everyone knows Coventry has helped thousands of people sell their policies for cash, even term policies.
I can't believe they're just sitting up there.
Sitting on all this cash.
If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you can sell all or part of it to Coventry, even a term policy, for cash or a combination of cash and coverage with no future premiums.
Someone needs to tell them that they're sitting on a gold mine and you have no idea. Hey, guys! You're sitting on a gold mine! Come on,
Do you hear that?
I don't hear anything anymore.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-459-2600 or visit coventrydirect.com.
The Democratic National Convention kicks off next week in Chicago, where Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Tim Walz, will take center stage. Our own Jen Psaki has an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at what we can expect. Jen spoke with DNC Executive Director Alex Hornbrook and DNC Committee Chairwoman Minion Moore inside the United Center with final preparations underway.
There's always a story that conventions are trying to tell. What's the story of the convention next week?
You know, I think the story is about where Joe Biden started. You know, he started us with, we're going to claim the soul of this nation. And I think that when he started that, we all looked and said, what does that really mean? But then when we really went through this process and saw what we were up against, I really came to understand just how valuable that was. And so we decided that not only were we going to anchor in that, because he's always thought about unity, bipartisanship, it became the theme of who we were. And so that's, to me, the underlying story of all of this. We are going to continue the work of the Biden-Harris administration. We're certainly going to pivot to the future as we look at Harris and Walz, but I think our anchor and our North Star was where he started us.
And joining me now is Jen Psaki, former White House press secretary in the Biden administration and the host of Inside with Jen Psaki, which is here on MSNBC. Jen, I think it's pretty safe to say that there's a lot riding on this convention for Kamala Harris. She has an unbelievable amount of momentum right now. She'd like to sustain that.
Right.
How is she going to use this convention to keep that momentum up?
Well, you're right. I mean, it's only been 3.5 weeks. It's hard to believe since she kind of stepped in and now is at the top of the ticket. This is her last best opportunity to communicate with a broad swath of the public who may have seen her at a rally. Maybe they saw her on TV. Maybe they like her vibe. Maybe they're feeling joy from her. But this is the best opportunity to do that, because after the convention, it becomes a sprint to the finish line. She'll have a speech, of course, on Thursday, and the entire convention will be really telling the story of who she is, her biography, what she's fighting for, the prosecutor versus the convicted felon. I'm sure will be a part of it, as will her own biography. The Divine Nine, Mignon Moore shared with me, will be a part of it. She was a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. So they'll be a part of her story being told on a personal level, but also conveying to the public the choice in this election. And this is always an important moment for every presidential nominee.
And there's also an opportunity here for Democrats to actually build this bridge between Biden and Harris that maybe they didn't get to really do because of how quickly President Biden ended up leaving the race. There's probably a little bit of hurt feelings there about the way that this whole process played it out. He's going to have his opportunity to kind of give somewhat of a farewell speech on Monday. What should we expect from that?
That's exactly. I was thinking about this earlier today. I mean, this is also probably his last huge speech that he will give. We don't know if he'll give a final speech in January, whatever it may be, but this is also a huge moment for President Biden. I would expect, first, he's beloved in the party, and even more so now. He was before, but even more so now, given the choice he made just a couple of weeks ago. And to your point, this is really a baton passing in many ways. He's speaking on Monday night. I would anticipate a big standing ovation for him in the room. I have been talking to staffers who are feeling emotional. They're feeling elated. They're feeling sad. I know a lot of old Biden alumni are going to be flying in to be there that night. I think there's a staff party happening afterwards. But for President Biden, I think this is his opportunity to tell the story of how he sees this moment in history. As you heard Mignon say in that clip, he's always been a believer in the possibility of bipartisanship. He's a believer in civility. He's a believer in getting things done for the working man and working woman. I expect those themes to be in his speech, as well as a defense of the soul of the nation, which is a phrase and language he used in 2020. He's continued to use, and he sees that as essentially the choice that has been the choice in this election and will continue to be for the remaining period of time.
It's dangerous to read into body language, but I watched that joint appearance between Harris and Biden, and it seemed as though Biden, there was a degree of weight lifted off his shoulders. Obviously there is, but he did seem comfortable in making this decision, at least at this point. Do you think that's a fair assessment? And how do he and Harris kind of navigate this relationship going forward?
I think, Ryan, it's probably a mixed bag. I think for him and his family and the people who are close to him, including campaign staffers and staffers who have worked for him for a long time, enormous pride, a weight lifted, certainly, a sadness. I mean, there's no more campaigns that he will be running. That is a sad thing if you're him and you've been in public life for more than 50 years. I think their relationship is one where it's complementary, and that's what the presidential and vice presidential relationship should be. They have different strengths. They have different superpowers. And I loved what President Biden said this week about how Tim Walz is somebody he'd be friends with. You know, it's like he's kind of saying, here's you're going to be your vice presidential running mate. He's the kind of guy I would hang out with, too. And that, I think, tells you a lot about the complementary nature of it. But for President Biden, I think it's bittersweet. I think this is an end of a long, incredible career, and it's there's only a few more months to go in the story that will be told on that front.
Okay. All right, Jen Psaki, thanks for that inside look, and be sure to catch Inside with Jen Psaki, aptly named program, Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on MSNBC. And another quick programming note: Andrea Mitchell Reports will be live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago next week. Don't miss Andrea's special coverage. And bracing for impact, Hurricane Ernesto barrels towards Bermuda, set to bring with it life-threatening flooding. We're live there for the island's final preparations. This is Andrea Mitchell Reports, only on MSNBC.
Confident about which used car to buy?
Nope.
Why not ask the most confident person you know?
My old high school coach.
Just say, show me the Carfax value. You'll get the most accurate price based on the vehicle's accident history. Shop at the all-new Carfax.com.
If you're watching this Gerber Life Guaranteed Life Insurance commercial, there's a good chance that you're alive. And if you're not, well, this may not be of interest to you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Life insurance? I'm going to live forever. Death is what happens to other people. Well, for the sake of argument, let's assume you're wrong and that someday you won't be watching TV anymore. I know it's not easy to talk about, so I'll do the talking. If you're 50 plus and alive, you can apply for Gerber Life Guaranteed Life Insurance with guaranteed acceptance, regardless of your health. And since this life insurance is guaranteed, you don't have to get a medical exam. In fact, you don't even have to fill out a health questionnaire. For a free quote, just call 800-446-1479. Then when you stop, if you stop watching TV, your family can use the insurance money to help cover your final expenses or anything else. For a free quote, call today, 800-446-1479. Your kids already inherited your ears, allergies, and questionable singing voice. Don't make them inherit your final expense tab, too.
Dude, dog food in the fridge? It's not dog food. It's Fresh Pet. Real meat, real veggies. Real weird. He was bad luck anyway.
Here's some information about replacing windows and doors that just may surprise you. I'm Brian Gary. I'm here with Brian Price from Renewal by Andersen.
Hey, Brian. Homeowners always ask, my windows aren't even 10 years old. Why do I have to replace them? But if they aren't quality windows, they may not last.
Some builders put money into kitchens and bathrooms and cheap out on the windows. I see it all the time. But your reputation for quality is unheard of in this industry.
Well, thanks, Brian. We've been the full-service replacement window division of Andersen for almost 30 years. So when people don't want to mess around and they want quality, they call us.
What can you say about your certified master installers?
Well, a new window or door is only going to last if it's installed properly. Renewal by Andersen installers go through intense classroom and field training programs. Many of them have installed thousands of windows. Talk about mastering something.
If the homeowner has an issue and has to chase down different contractors and companies, they get stuck in the blame game, and that's the worst.
Right. The manufacturer points to the installer points to the manufacturer. With us, there's no blame game or finger pointing because we manage the whole process, from consultation to installation.
And you don't do estimates?
No, we do something better. We'll come out, assess your current windows and doors, and leave you with an exact price that's good for an entire year.
Nice, no pressure.
Today's homeowner, a trusted home improvement resource for over 35 years, named Renewal by Andersen the top pick for replacement window companies. We're proud of that. Oh, and here's this month's discount.
It's Renewal by Andersen's 31-day sales event. Buy one window, patio door, or entry door and get the next one 40% off with a minimum purchase of 4. Plus, save an extra $45 off every window and door with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 12 months. Our 31-day sales event ends August 31st. For a free appointment during this sales event, call 1-800-460-7700.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I need help with their snoring.
Sleep Number does that.
Thank you. During our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed and free delivery when you add any base.
It's a lot to be a caregiver and a daughter because you kind of have to take a step back. Getting some help would be a great relief.
From companions to helpers to caregivers, find all the senior care you need at care.com.
Clogged gutters can cause big problems fast. Until now. Call 833 Leaf Filter today for your free gutter inspection.
I've had terrible flooding problems on my porch. Now I understand why.
Right now, Leaf Filter is offering a free inspection on your schedule. Leaf Filter is a permanent gutter solution, so you never have to worry about costly damage from clogged gutters again.
Call us today and schedule your free inspection.
To schedule your free inspection, call 833 Leaf Filter today or visit leaffilter.com.
Hurricane Ernesto is barreling toward Bermuda, set to pummel the island with 100-mile-per-hour winds, life-threatening flooding, and dangerous storm surges. The Category 2 storm has already left hundreds of thousands without power in Puerto Rico and could dump up to 15 inches of rain on Bermuda. All of Bermuda is under a hurricane warning today, with conditions there expected to worsen this afternoon. NBC News correspondent Guad Venegas joins us from Bermuda with the latest. So, Guad, give us a sense of what you're seeing on the ground right now.
Ryan, it's the final hours of preparation here in Bermuda. The weather is relatively calm. We've had some light rain, and these are the final hours for people to get all of their supplies, food, water, of course, batteries, and to make sure they charge their phones before we get that heavy rain and the wind. Now, the water here usually doesn't have this many waves, so we're already seeing the effects here in the ocean. The storm is forecasted to make its way up through the Atlantic, just west of the island. But authorities today, the head of the Weather Service in Bermuda said that residents needed to keep in mind that no matter where it ends up passing, they do expect the effects of the storm to affect the entirety of Bermuda. During that press conference, the Minister of National Security wanted people to understand the danger of the rain and the wind that is expected. This is him speaking just minutes ago.
This is not a storm to be taken lightly. We are about to endure at least 36 hours of hurricane and tropical storm force winds. If you do not take these warnings seriously, you are putting yourself in danger and the lives of our emergency personnel who may be called to assist you.
Now, the total shutdown is expected to begin tonight. The airport will be shutting down with the last flights getting out this afternoon. There's a lot of tourists on the island that are happy to be able to get on these flights. Others that were going to be flying out on Saturday or Sunday tried making changes, but many tell us it was impossible because those flights were already sold out. So they're going to have to ride out the storm here in Bermuda. Cruise ships have also left early to make sure that we're safe and away from the storm. So again, it is the final hours before we see the wind and the rain from Ernesto come down here to Bermuda. Back to you, Ryan.
Okay, Guad Venegas live in Bermuda. Guad, please stay safe. Thank you for that report. Up next, the growing gender gap in a key battleground as the Republican ticket drives many women voters away. This is Andrea Mitchell Reports, only on MSNBC.
I own a lot of businesses, so my tech and my network need to keep up. Thank you, Verizon Business.
Now our businesses get fast and reliable internet from the same network that powers our phones.
So whatever's next, we're cooking with fire.
Switch to the partner businesses rely on.
Do you know about Medicare Part C plans, also called Medicare Advantage? Are you confused about what a Medicare Part C plan covers and what benefits you can get in your zip code? Different Part C plans are available in different parts of the country. Do you have the coverage you need? If you're losing benefits for any reason or new to Medicare, you could be eligible to enroll in a plan today. Enrollment in a Medicare Part C plan is not automatic. Call the number on your screen for your free Medicare benefits checkup and to speak to a licensed insurance agent who can see if you are eligible for a special enrollment period and find out what benefits are available to you in your zip code. Different Part C plans are available in different parts of the country. Do you have the coverage you need? A Medicare Part C plan could help you save money and include extra benefits. Find out if you are eligible. Call for your free Medicare benefits checkup and find out what your options are based on where you live. You should call now even if you've called before. You could be eligible for plans with additional benefits you may not be receiving now or that may have previously not been available to you. With just one call, you can get your questions answered, find out if you are eligible for a special enrollment period, and see what benefits are available to you in your zip code. But remember, enrollment in a Medicare Part C plan is not automatic. So call now. Call 800-364-1630. The call and Medicare benefits checkup are absolutely free and there's no obligation. Make sure you have the coverage you need. Call 800-364-1630. That's 800-364-1630. 800-364-1630.
Only Purple's Gel Flex Grid passes the raw egg test. No other mattress cradles your body and simultaneously supports your spine. Memory foam doesn't come close. Get your best sleep guaranteed. Save up to $1,000 during our Labor Day sale. Visit purple.com or a store near you.
Lunch is on me today.
Awesome. Why?
I have some extra cash right now. I started using Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, are you saying you get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash.
Right? You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back?
It's like free money. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Use this promo code and get an extra 25 cents a gallon cash bonus on your first tank.
Thanks.
Download the free Upside app now. Earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DROP for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank.
Lunch is on me today.
Awesome. Why?
I have some extra cash right now. I started using Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait, are you saying you get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash.
Right? You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back?
It's like free money. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Use this promo code and get an extra 25 cents a gallon cash bonus on your first tank.
Thanks.
Download the free Upside app now. Earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DROP for an extra 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank.
With the Democratic National Convention kicking off in Chicago on Monday, the Harris campaign is hoping to keep its momentum going and hold on to the swell of enthusiasm it's seeing heading into November. Joining me now is Republican strategist Susan Del Percio, Adam Jentleson, the former chief of staff to Senator John Fetterman and the former deputy chief of staff to Senator Harry Reid, and former advisor to President Biden's 2020 campaign, Alencia Johnson. Susan, let's start with you, and I want to show you a new Quinnipiac poll this week that shows in the battleground of Pennsylvania, women are backing Harris over Trump 54 to 41%, whereas men support Trump by a 7-point margin. The comments we're hearing from Donald Trump about Kamala Harris and from J.D. Vance about women more generally, can they pivot this to make a point and inroads with women voters who clearly are going to be an important part of who decides the next president?
They can try, but as we've been discussing and will continue to discuss, Donald Trump's not going to change. He's not going to stop being a bully. He's not going to stop going to Georgia and making fun of the very popular governor's, Republican governor's wife. Those are the things that turn off independent and especially women voters. Donald Trump is banking on two things, crime and the economy, as far as issues to go after those suburban women. But right now, it's not going to be enough because in many states we have abortion on the ballot. And also, Donald Trump is just turning them off in droves, similar to what he did in 2020.
And Alencia, Vice President Harris could see a boost from a powerful voting bloc, and that is black women. She is a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, so as a result, she has unique access to millions of members of the Divine Nine Greek organization. Tell us more about that, and how will that connection help her across the country?
Well, I'm one of those 2.4 million Divine Nine members. I am a Delta. And let me be honest that our group chats are fired up and talking about wearing our colors at convention, on election day, on inauguration day. And soon after it came out that she was the nominee, you saw the Divine Nine organizations, who are nonprofits, talking about voter mobilization. And then you saw some of them, like the Delta for Action, the Alpha PAC, which is fraternity, I believe the AKAs, their PAC as well, also endorsing Kamala Harris, along with other members of the Greek letter organizations that are running for office. And so you will see this contingent not only mobilizing their members, also, they are leaders and influential folks in their own communities, so they will continue to mobilize a lot more black voters within their service areas and beyond.
Adam, Vice President Harris, she is getting support from these different voting blocs, but there is a worry that she's losing a contingent of older white voters who supported President Biden at the top of the ticket. What can the Harris campaign do to hold on to them?
Well, I think, first of all, it's not clear that concern is really grounded in a lot of data so far. The numbers so far have been holding relatively steady, even as she has improved with other blocs like young voters, non-white voters, and women voters over President Biden's performance. So we have to wait and see if those losses really do manifest. But I think there's a lot of things she can do. She's been very smart so far about signaling moderation across a number of issues. She's been running aggressively on border security, on her own role that she did play as vice president in reducing border crossings over the past couple of years. Border crossings are way down. There was a story recently about how Governor Abbott of Texas, who's been famous for shipping migrants to other cities and putting them on buses, he is having trouble filling the buses right now because there are so few border crossings, and border crossings are down so much because of some of the actions Vice President Harris has taken. So I think she's mindful of that risk and is being very smart so far in addressing issues like border security that are important to those blocks of voters. And I think we'll continue to see that probably next week at the convention and as this campaign moves into the fall.
So, Susan, we are now anticipating the first debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It's less than a month away. ABC announced today that it'll be held at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. How would you advise either candidate as they start preparing for their first meeting?
Well, Trump's hopeless. Let's put it that way. We know he's not going to prepare. He'll do a little, and then he's just going to yell and scream and go around and stalk the vice president on TV if he repeats his performance from 2016 with Hillary Clinton. When it comes to the vice president, I think she has a lot of that training built in as a prosecutor. I think we're going to see her make her case. And what is so important for the vice president in this debate is to really come home to voters under 40, but even more so voters between 18 and 25. They're really looking at her now and being motivated to vote for her. They weren't necessarily ever going to really go for Trump, but they were staying on the couch when it came to Biden. Now they're active. I think that should be more of her target as far as that goes, because she is actually doing well with voters over 65, 70 years old. The problem where Trump does well for her is in the people in their 50s.
Alencia, there's always a danger in a debate with Donald Trump because he is not afraid to go after someone personally. He said yesterday that he believes he has license to attack Kamala Harris personally. How does she respond if those personal attacks come, not just during the debate, but in these weeks leading up to the debate, and then when she is there face-to-face against him on the stage?
Well, I've noticed over the past few weeks when he makes a personal attack, she gets down to business. She talks about his policies and calls him a bully. I do think that in the debate, of course, he is going to have the personal attacks. We saw what he was doing to Secretary Hillary Clinton. But if I was him, I'd be pretty scared because I remember Vice President Harris when she was senator and prosecuting the case when people were at the judiciary hearings. And I think that is what you're going to see from her, shut him down, kind of like she did Vice President Pence, telling him that she was speaking and to stop interrupting her, and then moving forward with very real policy.
And Adam, there is some new polling from ABC that shows that more Americans are paying attention to what's happening in this debate, and they have more of a favorable impression of Tim Walz than they do of J.D. Vance. What impact is the bottom of the ticket going to have in this race coming up?
Well, I think, vice presidential picks typically don't have a major impact on the race. I think Vice President Harris will win or lose this on her own merits, and so far she is winning. But, it is the first major decision that she's had to make as the de facto or presumptive nominee. And I think the evidence shows that she made a great decision here. Governor Wallace has proven extremely popular, much more popular than his Republican counterpart, who is already creating major headaches for the Trump campaign. He's proven a very adept campaigner. He's great on the stump. He's funny. And he clearly enjoys the job. They always say interviews for the job you want, and he really clearly wants this job.
All right, Susan Del Percio, Adam Jettleson, and Alencia Johnson, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Last hour at the White House, President Biden was joined by civil rights leaders to officially designate the site of the 1908 race riot in Springfield, Illinois, as a national monument. 116 years ago this week, a white mob terrorized black residents for days, hanging two black men and burning black-owned homes and businesses to the ground. The riot led activists to form the NAACP 6 months later. Up next, profiting from addiction, damning text messages between the two doctors charged in connection with the overdose death of actor Matthew Perry. We're watching Andrea Mitchell Reports only on MSNBC.
Got real serious for a moment. Okay.
What's with the what? What?
Trains. Trains that use the power of Dell AI and Intel, clearing the way so you arrive exactly where you belong.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try
And we are learning more details about the defendants charged in actor Matthew Perry's accidental overdose death. Federal investigators have charged 5 people, including 2 doctors, Matthew Perry's live-in assistant, and an alleged drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, all in connection with the actor's fatal ketamine overdose. Prosecutors say the Friends star was injecting the drug 6 to 8 times a day, spending $85,000 on ketamine in the month before he died. DEA Administrator Ann Milgram on the Today Show this morning said that Perry was being treated with ketamine for anxiety and depression, but at some point he wanted a higher dosage, which his physicians wouldn't provide, so he sought out other sources.
It's part of the tragedy of this case that doctors are in a position of authority and trust, and these 2 doctors violated that. They saw him as a payday, and they saw it as an opportunity for them to make a lot of money. And so it doesn't matter, and this is an important message in the United States, it doesn't matter if you're wearing a doctor's coat or you're a member of a cartel or you're a drug dealer on the street. We're going to hold you accountable if you're selling drugs.
Joining us now from Los Angeles, NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson. It just seems that this story gets more heartbreaking with every development, Steve. What does the indictment tell us about the doctors and the dealers who are allegedly providing this ketamine to Perry?
Yeah, Ryan, I think heartbreaking is the operative word here. I think you could take it a step further. This document is harrowing. It paints the portrait of a man who is spiraling into his addiction, and instead of the people closest to him providing help, instead of medical doctors who swear an oath to nurture and preserve life, they are further pushing him into that abyss. So again, as you mentioned, he's receiving these legitimate ketamine treatments for anxiety and depression. It's clear he wants more in these documents. He finds this Dr. Salvador Placencia, noted as Dr. P in the indictment, gets 20 vials for $50,000. Keep in mind, every figure I'm going to list here is within the weeks of his death. 20 vials, $50,000. And it's clear at points when the doctor is giving these injections in this indictment that Perry is at times freezing up, if not borderline seizing, and yet these treatments continue. This is the guy that is listed as saying, I wonder how much this moron will pay. He then finds the Ketamine Queen, where he receives 50 vials for $11,000. Clear that all the people listed in his indictment, 5 in total, prosecutors say, led to Perry's death at some point with all of these ketamine treatments going on. Ryan.
All right, Steve Patterson, thank you for that report. We appreciate it. And that does it for this edition of Andrea Mitchell Reports. Andrea will be back Monday live from the DNC in Chicago. Remember to follow the show on social media at Mitchell Reports. You can also follow me at Ryan Nobles with 1 N. And you can rewatch the best parts of this show anytime on YouTube. Just go to msnbc.com/Andrea. Chris Jansing Reports with Jose Diaz-Balart starts right now.
And good day. I'm Jose Diaz-Balart in for Chris Jansing. Help to get ahead, not just get by. That's how Vice President Harris is framing the economic plan she'll be unveiling in her first real policy speech, set to take place in the next hour. Plus, Hurricane Ernesto could hit Bermuda directly by this time tomorrow. Residents warning they're running out of time to hunker down before getting slammed with up to 100-mile-an-hour winds and more than a foot of rain. I'll talk to one of the heads of FEMA about that impending disaster and the one they're already dealing with in Puerto Rico, where 250,000 people are still in the dark. And Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has been relentless in her fight for freedom. Now in hiding, she is calling for world solidarity as she tries to ratchet up pressure on Nicolas Maduro following last month's disputed presidential elections. Coming up, more of my conversation with her about what's next for her country.
We won't let go. We won't surrender. We'll keep fighting, putting pressure inside.